no influential platform to express yourself fully. Every minute meant additional time for people to engage and for a larger impact on your digital footprint. You Googled your name, and while you previously controlled at least the first 10 pages of your search results, now the first 5 pages are tarnished with articles and tabloids. You started to lose work opportunities, and you didn't know anyone else who had experienced cyber violence in a similar way that you could speak to. You felt violated, but didn't even know how to explain what it is you were feeling or why it was so traumatizing, because it all seemed really invisible. You were an activist fighting for people's voices to be heard, and yet everybody was telling you to just be silent. Lay low, let it go, it will pass. Except the internet never forgets. It's there. The drama might pass, the trend might pass, but it's still there. And you use social media for work, so avoiding attacks meant losing work hours, days, weeks, and even months. So that was me. I almost committed what is called Twittercide. I was traumatized and didn't work for almost 4 months, and I'm still really apprehensive about using social media for crowdfunding. So in August last year, I was approached by a young man who had a brain tumor. It was his 4th brain tumor, and he needed to get surgery in India. He had connected with me on Twitter a few years earlier. In those years, had had a 2nd and a 3rd surgery, and his family had exhausted all resources. They had tried to fundraise, and he asked me to support him. Long story short, I took it on, approached a blogger of his choice, one of Kenya's top bloggers, created a crowdfunding strategy, and we launched the campaign within 2 days. Our goal was to raise $10,000 in 1 week. Within 2 days, we had raised $60,000. Within 3 days, $70,000, and now we're frantically trying to ask Kenyans not to donate anymore, because I was terrified of what would happen when we would have to deal with the people who, would create drama around it. It was Kenya's most successful crowdfunding strategy at the time, led by individuals, strangers raising money for a stranger. It would be loaded. And so up until this point, I have not engaged in any serious crowdfunding campaigns. People ask me all the time to support their crowdfunding initiatives, and I just won't. There's too much trauma around it, and this is the thing. When an individual contaminates that...
If you were a man?
It was worse for me because I was a woman, because the blogger was a man. He had his own blog platform, so he was very quickly able to, absolve himself. And a lot of the attacks were, for multiple reasons, because I'm a woman, because of, my name, because of my activism, because of my feminism, because I am a strong woman online. Yeah. There are multiple reasons why I was attacked. Yeah.
I understand. Martha.
Yeah, so it's pretty, it goes back to what I said before. Everything that we do online is real. So this is a real person, right? And everybody that contributed, making that story viral, contributed to this perception that she has now, that there's always people waiting to create drama around situations. And what you would find online is, sometimes you never really know the impact that you have online, and you don't even know the number of people that are interested in you as an individual until there's a situation that demeans you online. Then you will have people who don't even follow you having an opinion about who you are as a person. And like I said, it's because offline, women's abilities and capabilities are always undermined because we are women. And for me, a classic example would be, I'm involved in a lot of governance issues back home. And so we just came from an election, for example, and there was a woman who was running for president amongst 9 candidates. She was the only woman running for president. And we had 2 other ladies who were running as running mates, 2 presidential candidates. And I took time because I go to schools and speak to young girls, young teenagers about different topics. But in one of those instances where I was at a school, I decided to speak to parents and just get their perspective about elections and what they thought about the female candidates that were participating. And one particular gentleman said, Zambia is not ready for a woman president. And I said, okay, why is that? Well, because she's just a woman. Managing a country and managing a house are two different things. And for me, that was alarming because then when I went online, I became more aware of what people were saying about those female presidential candidates, and it mirrored exactly the same sentiments that that gentleman had. So even if women stepped to the table to present themselves as credible leaders because they believe they can do something for the leadership, they will be discredited and undermined simply because you're a woman. And she mentioned it yesterday to say, you know, men experience abuse, fine, but they don't experience abuse because they are men. It could be because of something else. But imagine having to go through something simply because you're a woman. Like somebody does not have a credible reason why they think you can't do anything except for the fact that you're a woman. You know, and so that is pretty alarming for me in my community. It's very, very alarming that we have such sentiments and they continue to be propagated online. And another example is in one of the talks that I have with young girls, I noticed that one of my teenage mentees was bleaching her skin. And so I called her aside and I wanted to find out why she was bleaching her skin. And she couldn't really open up in the beginning until having several talks with her. And she opened up to me and said, well, it's because on Facebook or when you're on Twitter, the guys are always saying the light-skinned girls are like the catch, you know, they're the ish. So it tends to make me feel like I'm a bit inadequate. So imagine strangers on the internet saying, you know, dark-skinned girls are not so hot as the light-skinned girls. And because this is a young girl, she's 14, she then feels the pressure to bleach her skin to fit into the narrative that society is propagating online. And so that's why for me it's important to realize that it's an alarming situation and it has impact on the people that are seeing what you're putting out there. You might put it out there because, you know, it's the fun thing to say, you want to trend, you want to have a couple of followers. But because the internet is so vast, it has so many people that are feeding off what you're saying. And if it's young girls, for example, who are teenagers, they're still trying to figure out themselves, they will take what they see online as the in thing to do. And so we need to be able to take cyber violence and like she said, we don't need to label it as cyber violence. It is violence because it has an impact on real individuals in the societies that we live in. So for that needs the prominence that it should get, that other issues are getting currently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sum up the two of yours contribution. You're speaking about good intention to use so to say, and there is